As soon as I started the class, it was actually really fun for me to like be able to have someone actually tell me like what to be doing and kind of teaching me about stuff, just because I've always was craving that. And that kind of excited me a little bit to be able to really talk to the teachers. It felt really like personal, which I enjoy for learning. This really prepped me for like what I was about to experience after.
Give us some of your numbers. What's the most highly watched video that you've ever done?
Monthly views are at 36 million. So it's really crazy to think about that many people are seeing all of our work.
Hey everyone, I'm Rafi Salem, back with Manhattan Edit Workshop, talking with you. Today, as always, we have Josh Apter and Jason Banke, and we welcome Annie Nelson to the show. Welcome, Annie.
Hi, thank you.
You're welcome. So let's start out with a little introduction. Josh, why don't you go first, hand it off to Jason, and then Jason, you'll introduce Annie. Go ahead.
All right. And by the way, it took me months to get that, like talking shop and talking MEWShop was like, that was actually a thing because you didn't introduce it like that today, but like, just as I kind of get it, now it's all changed. So I just throwing that out there. For people out there who are like, why is it called talking MEWShop? I don't understand. By the way, I was talking to somebody who called it MEWShop. They thought the cat association was so strong that they just like went full meow on
Cats,
us.
we're all about cats here at the MEWShop. We're all about cats.
Right. I just said if you want to go long form and call it Manhattan Edit Workshop, that also works. You know, it just takes a second longer. But anyway, I've been having that comprehension problem for over 20 years because the school started that long ago. And we were MEW, we were Manhattan Edit Workshop. You can find us online and you just put in film editing classes, I'm sure will pop up. But we started this school essentially with a 4-week film editing workshop, over 20 years ago now. And we expanded it to a 6-week with the addition of an artist in residence. So we were able to have professional editors join the class, talk about their experiences, how they got started, critique the work of the students. And 4 weeks just wasn't enough time. At that time, we were doing Final Cut Pro and Avid. We've since moved to Premiere and Avid. Much to my chagrin, I still think Final Cut is the way to go. No props to Apple because you're doing plenty of things wrong, but I think you still have Final Cut out there, and it's the best of the bunch as far as I'm concerned. And we always try to take time out to talk about the art of editing and not just the buttons you push. I mean, we were just talking before the conversation started. Annie was saying, like, you can take these online classes and just there are Twitter boards where it's like, oh, go and go to watch these YouTube videos, and yeah, you can do that. But we pride ourselves on taking the time to really understand the concepts, talk about the history of editing, different styles of editing, and there's class time taken almost every day in the first 4 weeks of the class to study that while you're cutting different pieces. And it's just beyond the button pushing, really. And so that's great. And then every once in a while we get to talk to someone who's gone through the class, who's doing something interesting for work. And this is interesting for us in a different way. Annie's doing, you'll go in and talk about what you do, but you're doing something that's your own thing. It's like cutting short form content for social media, and it's not, I'm sure, unique to you, but it's interesting to hear that story, how that happened for you and what it's like to be in that world. So I think I probably said too much. I'll throw it back to you. And if you let me know if you need me, I'll be here having my coffee.
Jason, please introduce yourself.
Sure, I'm Jason. I work with Josh. I've worked there not quite 20 years, but it feels like it days. I actually took the class that Annie took. It was quite different at that time. It was, as Josh said, Final Cut Pro. And unique to what Annie's experience was, I took it in person because Annie, you took it in 2022 when we were still transitioning. So I've met you probably plenty of times via email, but I've never been face-to-face with you. So I'm excited to hear your experience. But this should be definitely interesting to talk to you because I watch a lot of the stuff that you work, not exactly what you work on, but because of my kids are constantly putting on YouTube. So as much as I am not in that sphere, it's constantly on at my house. So it's a totally different way of, well, it's a new industry, fairly relatively new industry in the last 10 years. And So it's cool to get somebody who took the class. We've had, I think we were talking beforehand, we had someone from reality TV. We've had some people in film, the feature films and stuff. So this will be a unique experience. So I'm happy to turn it over to you so you can kind of tell us where you got your start and how you got to Manhattan MEWShop and moved on to where you are now.
Okay, yeah, it's kind of a longish story.
We've got time. We've got like
Yeah.
hours and hours. Go ahead.
I didn't know how much detail you want me to go in with this, but it's actually very interesting. I moved to Los Angeles the day after I graduated high school and had no idea what I wanted to do at all. And at the time, I was creating videos on social media and I was doing pretty well in there, but I just hated like being in front of the camera. I didn't like people asking me questions about my life and like stuff like that.
You mean
And
exactly like what we're doing right now?
no, like it would be like way more personal than that. It was like really weird. And all of my friends were creators. So I kind of wanted to be involved with that in some way, but not be in front of the camera myself. Because I've always like I did theater when I was in high school and I loved being behind the scenes, but not on the stage. So that's kind of always been like a theme for me. And one time my friend who is a YouTuber, he was just stressing about editing one of his videos and he's totally self-taught and he was like, if you want, I can pay you to try this. And I was like, sure, like money's money. I didn't think anything of it. And as soon as like I cut the video, I was like, this is so fun. Like it's just to me, because his videos are very silly and like they're supposed to be kind of like you can tell there's a cut there kind of thing. And I felt like a lot of creative freedom and like I could really express myself in a different way through that. So I kind of ended up editing for him for a while and in like return he would pay my rent. So at the time I was doing it just purely to like be here. And I never really tried to get a job outside of that because I've never heard anything about how the industry works. I just learned from someone who's self-taught. And so after being in Los Angeles for about almost a year, I was like, I have no idea what to do. I'm trying to find a different job. Like it's hard working with a friend. And I thought I was going to go to Arizona State University to go learn editing there and because they had a course. So I fully moved and left all of my friends and went there. And as soon as I got there, I got this pit feeling in my stomach. I was just like, I do not want to spend 4 years here. Like, I hate it here already. And the roommates, as soon as I got there, they were super mean. And I was like, why is the universe bringing me here? So I had to drive back home by myself to Georgia from Arizona, which was 3 days long. And I had a lot of time to think. And I was like, well, I want to be in a city. So I've only been in New York once, but I'm just going to go and like see what happens for me there. And before I went, I was looking up editing things and just kind of seeing what the vibe with that is. And y'all brought up cats. And the reason I clicked on the website is because I love cats and the name made me laugh. And I have one and I was like, that's just a funny name. So I kind of checked it out, talked to my dad. He said he would help me out. But I ended up moving there anyways, just because I didn't want to live in Georgia, even though I knew it was going to be online. Which took a bit of convincing to have my parents help me with that to live in New York just for the summer. But I still got a year lease. And as soon as I started taking the class, it was really just because I couldn't get a job. And I was like, people need me to learn Premiere. And like, I have no idea what that is. And I agree. I'm Final Cut to the day I die. I love it so much. I think that's because I just use it so much, especially with the kind of videos I'm doing now. But I really just wanted to learn Premiere. But as soon as I came to pick up the computer and started the class, it was actually really fun for me to like be able to have someone actually tell me like what to be doing and kind of teaching me about stuff, just because I've always was craving that, like to have someone be like, oh, like you can try this and here's how you do this program. And everyone was just
so let's just reel it back a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the time period right now, because you're representing a super interesting time in world history. So COVID came around, and I'm going to throw this back to Josh and Jason, where open for over 20 years, dealing with film industry professionals and dealing with everything. All of a sudden, we've got this global pandemic, and people are afraid. I mean, I had friends who were sanitizing the plastic outside of their vegetables outside, like sanitize Purell, like showering in sanitizer. So that means that no one is going in person anywhere.
Mhm.
So let's talk about that pivot first.
It was March 2020, the day the world shit the bed, right? Like it was horrifying. Like, you know, Mike,
And New
it was
York.
like,
Let's also
yeah,
put it in perspective.
exactly. Everybody was really just in that sort of like hide and like figure out what is going to happen to the world mode. But by the time you took it, I think our technology was there. It's just people were still like, I think there was a vaccine, but then there was what was there was that the variant in the fall. And that was like every time something good happened, two bad things would happen. And it was like we'd be like, oh, we're coming back. And then no, we're not. We're going to be remote for a while.
I mean, we even got to the point where we were, getting machines prepped to hand off to people. And I think, Annie, you said that you came in and actually took a machine from us as a loaner because we wanted to get people, because people, they didn't have the right equipment or they didn't have the right situation. And we were doing everything we could to try to get this class.
Segue into you're living in, your parents say, cool, move to the most populated city in the United States during COVID and take this online class. You could have taken it from Georgia probably, but you'd have to get a computer. So you're there, you've decided you've committed to do it. And then what's it like to prep and start the class? Who did you meet exactly when you got the computer?
When I got the computer, I was with Janet, and that's who I talked to mostly beforehand and like about all that stuff, and getting it. And yeah, I definitely could have done it in Georgia, but I just like really didn't want to be, because I moved the day after high school. You could probably tell I didn't enjoy it too much with work and stuff, especially. So I was a little bit sad that I couldn't go in person to the class, but there was only 2 other people in my class, and that kind of excited me a little bit to be able to really talk to the teachers, and both of them were super nice, and it felt really like personal, which I enjoy for learning. Personally, I love making friends as well, but at this time in my life, I was really just like, I really just want to learn these things. And I feel like personally, I would have loved in person too, but being on my computer kind of like this really prepped me for like what I was about to experience after. And like, because I talk to so many editors all over the world now, and like I don't get to talk to them in person, and it's very hard to like really get to know someone over a computer. But I feel like I've figured out certain ways and just like kind of working around that, which is very new, and it's like weird to like have to make friends through a computer and really get to know people. But I feel like it definitely, for what I do, it prepared me in that way to be like alone with my computer and kind of have to figure everything myself and not really have that hands-on help. And it was really great. I don't think it really took anything away from me. Obviously being in person would have been a little bit more like I'm really going to like school, I feel, because I kind of just woke up, had my computer on all day, and then at lunch I'd eat next to the computer while everyone had their cameras off. And yeah, I think it was still really great. And I'm very grateful for the experience, just because I thought I was just going to be learning Premiere, but after like COVID and everything ended, it kind of felt normal to be on a Zoom almost, because I was a junior in high school when COVID and everything started happening. So luckily I got to have a graduation, but I was online anyways because I didn't like my school. So luckily I was already online, and then senior year was online, and then I graduated in person. But it felt like just like any class that I had in high school where it was on the computer, which I'm sure was a very different shift for y'all, not being like kind of used to that.
It collapsed certain workflows and it allowed people to focus more on the work, but they still meet periodically so they can actually meet. Like for here, like people get work at post houses in the place. Jason was ready. It wasn't COVID that sort of, interfered with his work plan, but he was going to go work on a reality TV show after the 6 week. And that place was like, it was like a hive of energy, people running around all over the place. And there were people working on the, I think they had like an Avid Unity or some third-party version of it. And there were editors and bays all over the place and people who were sequencers and assistants and producers. And that energy is great. And that, I'm not sure that energy exists in that way at all anymore, nor should it, or will it? I don't know. But are you in person mostly? Or are you usually working remote with some in-person meetings or anything? Or what's it like?
For me, my job currently, it's actually funny because me and the YouTuber I edited for actually ended up dating after a few months. So we lived together. So I have like my room to edit in, and they film in this house, and everything is a set downstairs. So I'll hear them filming all day. I can go downstairs and kind of see what they're doing, which will make it easier for me to cut. So it's kind of like that, but the other editor we have that we just got, he's in Las Vegas and he's going to fly here so he can kind of experience that too. And we're kind of hoping to have editing in-house for the reason that it's convenient to be able to come see it upstairs whenever you want. It's like you can come ask me a question and all that stuff. But I feel like most people in my space are definitely remote though, because any other jobs I've had, it's like I can just send you like the final version off my computer and I never really have to talk. And I feel like that's also maybe a bit of an LA thing as well, because to drive anywhere it's like an hour. So people just don't feel like driving and like meeting, and it's not like it's big of a.
Annie, can you back up just a little bit, because for many, and we're going through this right now, we're actually thinking about offering a course on, now that you've taken the 6 week course, now we're going to teach you how to network, how to get a job, what to say, what to do, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm curious, in your online experience, was there any, we're going to coach you on how to get a job versus what was your experience? Taking the luck out of, I don't believe in luck. I believe you're in the right place at the right time. So, so how did you fall into where you were? Where you
Oh,
are?
that's a very interesting story. I feel like editing is like a very interesting for each person because sometimes it just happens automatically for people. But for my exact space that I'm in right now, after the workshop, I did have some help with I forget her name. Her name is Susan, and she edited for Grey's Anatomy. She talked to our class online, and she lived in Los Angeles. So Janet set me up with her to kind of like talk about, because I was planning on moving back here. New York just kind of wasn't my vibe. So I talked with her, and that nothing really ever came of that, just because I wasn't super interested in film. I was still wanted to go back to YouTube, and I still had another friend I was editing for a comedy show that he did. So as soon as I moved back, I had like the Premiere and Avid and a little bit of DaVinci experience, and we even had some time to like open After Effects, I think, one day just to kind of look at it. And I kind of like would just put on my resume that I really knew those things just to get a job. And I feel like a lot of editors do that because you can learn anything at any given time. It's not like too much about experience every time if you're a fast learner. And I probably applied for over 500 jobs just because I couldn't find anything on YouTube, and just no responses or like give me a test edit or something like that. And it was just not working out too great for the first month I got back here. And I was like, did I really just move to 3 different places just to be going through the same thing? But after, I think it was a month of moving back, not even a month, it was like 2 weeks of that. And I had this opportunity one day where there's this girl who is very big on social media. She was hanging out with my friend. She was like, come to the fair with us. And I was like, okay, like I'll just take a break from work for a little bit. And she brought one of her friends, and my parents at the time, because I couldn't take my cat back, so I was staying with my friend in LA, were like, if you don't get your cat and get a place, like we're gonna have to like give it up just because it's really annoying us. So I was really sad when I went to the fair, and she asked me like, like, what's wrong? And I was like, if I don't get a job, my parents are going to get rid of my cats. And I was so sad about it. And her friend, which was a guy, his name was Bryce, and he was like, my friend owns an editing company. And I was like, oh, like I could have just been asking people this whole time. And he was like, yeah, I'll set you up tomorrow. But I feel like usually like in LA and stuff, people will always be like, oh, let's go get coffee, and you never talk again. Like it's just that kind of thing. So I didn't really expect a text the next day. But I got a text and the company was very confusing. I'm not going to say their name, but I like started doing some short form content for them, and nothing like then they wouldn't talk to me for a month. And then I would keep asking like for jobs and stuff. And I feel like I was just not taken seriously as an editor because I was so young. And that's kind of what like the social media space really needs, is like a little bit of younger generation to like really know the trends that's going on and everything. So it's hard to have 8 years of experience when you're 18. And I just like kept trying and trying at this job, and I wouldn't get much out of it. And then there's this one guy there who was like the lead editor, and he was like, can you dog sit? Since I was asking for editing jobs so much. And I was like, sure. Like at this point, I just need to be able to pay rent. Like I'll watch someone's dog. And he was actually a producer. Like the story just keeps going. The guy that I was watching, the like owner of the dogs, he was a producer that did like Bridge to Terabithia and stuff. So I asked him kind of questions on like getting into that space, and he answered some for me. But then the editing company now asked me to PA, and I was like, okay, I feel like that I don't want a PA, but I feel like I could at least talk to people who are in the space and maybe see if they need an editor that way. I was just kind of doing whatever the company threw at me just to be able to like get involved a little bit. So I PA'd for a YouTuber that I actually used to watch when I was little, which was very interesting. And I did it a few times, and I was like, I just really don't like this. I don't want to be on set. And they asked me to PA one more time, and I was like, I don't want to go, but I am because I feel like I need to. So I go one more time, and I was on a set all day, super grueling. And at the end of the day, I heard this guy who was it was his set. And he was like, my editors are just not doing it for me. They suck. Like I just overheard him talking. And I was like, maybe I should go say something. So I went up to him. I kind of just introduced myself, and I was like, I'm an editor at the company that you're using for your production. And I was just wondering like if I could help you out with that. And he was like, please, like I will try anyone right now. So I ended up test editing for him that night. He liked it, and I was like, I can't do another one tomorrow because they asked me to PA again. He's like, oh, that's my set. So I ended up talking to him the next day. I really got to know him, and I feel like it was just kind of like a word of mouth thing. I really just had to get the confidence to go up and ask him. And because you see so many people online that are like, I edit, and there's no like substance to it, because you can see what they've edited, but it's not like, oh, you're funny, like, oh, you have a personality that I like. It's very like connected in that way, especially when it's this kind of thing where there's not like 20 editors, there's like 2 or 3. So I kept editing for him short form content, and then eventually like we kind of started talking more and in person, and then everything just kind of came together in that way. And I probably edited about like 400 shorts, like YouTube shorts, which is the short form content I was doing, before I started getting into long form, and everything just kind of fell into place where I would just keep moving up and up. And eventually I've been working here for about a year and a half now, and I'm lead editor and head of post-production. So I kind of have gained a lot of knowledge just being in this one specific place. And I feel like a lot of other editors, that kind of like you have to work through a bunch of different creators before you just like meet someone, because it's all word of mouth in this industry. I feel like because nobody really has applications, because the people doing this job are like in their 20s. They don't know how to put out an application for an editor and test them and do all the proper things that way. So I feel like it was very interesting how everything, I just accidentally met these people, even though I applied for like 500 places. But that's kind of like a short version of the story of how I got here. But I definitely had horror stories in between that, of like just not knowing what I was doing for someone while they're watching me.
So maybe we'll go into horror story. Maybe that could be the follow-up, the part 2 of just horror stories. Jason, I wanna throw this out at you, and then maybe you to Annie. You know, what I'm getting from this, my takeaway from this is that you have to be present physically in that place, because I don't believe you make it. I believe you make your own luck. There is no such thing as luck, and there is no such thing as coincidence. You have to be, if you're a New York vibe person, you got to be in New York. If you're an LA person, you got to just be there for the networking. But Jason, what's what is your formula for success? Like what's your take? Like everything that Annie's saying from this generation, what's the formula for success?
Well, that's a very large question. I can maybe answer
30
that.
seconds, Jason.
Uh,
Distill it down for
well,
everyone.
well, I think it's a remaining theme. You know, even though Annie, you're younger and you know knew what you wanted, that you wanted something different. I think you have to. I think it's about your following your instincts, um, doing everything you can to get the tools you need or the experience, even if it's a short amount of time, to get where you want to be. I mean, you're fortunate that you figured out that one, you didn't want to go to college, or at least that college, and that forced your hand, and you wanted to experience some other things, and you have to have confidence. I think that those are follow your instincts, prepare yourself, and be confident, because you wouldn't be where you are. Clearly, that story is crazy. Great that it worked out, but it's, you figured out what you needed to do to get where you had to go. And just hearing somebody paying attention on a set where you were definitely not happy, not necessarily with what was happening, but you weren't happy, and you were like, well, I have to put my head in a space so I can get happy or get where I need to be. So I think that's probably the formula, but that's going to be different for everybody. So obviously I can't, you know,
But
smack
we
it.
hear it time and time again. Like this is some version of that story. We had one guy, I remember you knew him too, Jason. But he was like in a group of people and he was just an assistant editor and somebody got canned and some guy walks in, they're like, who can cut this out? It was like an hour-long dramatic series. The guy comes in, he's like, who can do this? And he was like, he didn't know if he could do it or not, but his hand went straight up and well, that's the thing. Like you jump off the cliff and build the plane on your way down. That is definitely, and you you have to have the skill to back it up. I don't think you'll get very far going up to this person on set saying like, I could cut your thing. I just overheard, but you've got, you have the skill to do it. And then there's something about you're saying like getting to know like your click and as a personality. I've gotten jobs. Well, this is a long time ago, but I got my first feature editing job without the guy seeing a frame. We just sat down and talked and got along. And he's like, "You want to cut it?" And I kind of wanted to go, "Don't you want to see my work?" And I didn't because I was afraid that he would say, "Oh, wait, no." Second thought. But we had a great working relationship, but it came down to a conversation. And so much of that, you're like, Rafi, you were saying before, that doesn't happen on the boards, that doesn't happen online. Right, Annie, you were saying like just these editors are like, I can edit. Well, you can, but like, can you come out of your cave and like approach someone and have a conversation too? That's part of the job. And it's not a part of the job that anyone can teach. It's just, you have to understand how to relate because editing, right? Like you're in the same space as the director you're working with. And some of that is just looking at stuff together. Like, what if we did this? Just like having that sort of like that sort of process conversation and, and then having the agreement or disagreement or the back and forth and being able to do that, is that relationship and the skills are part of the job for sure.
So Annie, if you can wrap things up and give people the one takeaway, maybe one and a half, what would be that bottom line for you, for advice for other people that want to either, well, your experience is in the social media and online world. So for the people watching that want to get into that, what's your takeaway? What's your bottom line?
My bottom line for that is there are thousands and thousands of editors who can do social media and might do it as well as you do, but you just have to have confidence to be able to go up to people and really show who you actually are as well, because I feel like people also want to be friends with you, not just have you as an employee. And if you're able to go, even if you don't have the best skills in the entire world, I'm sure you can learn it if you have confidence in yourself. And if you go up and show to someone that, hey, I can talk to you and I can do this for you, almost like 99% of the time, they'll be like, sure. Just if you just have to go up to them.
You're reminding me of Pete Davidson. There's a skit on Saturday Night Live where they're like, maybe his name is Kyle or something like, hey, can you do this? And it's like, sure. Like, and can you do this now? It's like, sure. They like just kept on yesing, just kept on yesing. Um, before we get into final wrapping things up, Annie, you're young, you've got incredible skills. Do you see any future? Like, are you thinking a year in advance? Are you thinking 5 year? Like, what's going on in your head right now professionally?
Yes, professionally, I really enjoy working here right now. And I know for at least like the next 5 years, I'm definitely wanting to stay exactly where I am, like in the company. But outside of that, I also want to start my own company to help people of like the same, I guess, like editing experience that I had when I first started, and to really get jobs, because for the social media space, there's not a place to do that yet. There's YouTube jobs that nobody checks. There's Twitter where there's hundreds of thousands of people all over the country, and you don't get connected with the right people. So I really want to figure out a way to fix that for everyone. And I just want to keep getting my skills better and better to be able to help people out in the future. And that's kind of my long-term goal.
That good for you for having some vision. There are a lot of people out there that don't have that vision. So good for you. I'm thinking MEWShop West. I'm just
Shop.
One out here.
I'm just
No,
saying,
no.
instead of Manhattan Edit Workshop, can we do an LA? But then you don't have the mute, like you don't have the cat thing with LA. You've got
We're
the
law shop. If we do that, I think you could sort
Yeah.
of try. Although we
There's a
were thinking
Manhattan
about
Beach.
that. Yeah, there's a Manhattan Beach, and you could do a Manhattan Edit Workshop because there's some cachet, like like having a New York deli out in wherever.
Right.
Having a Manhattan Edit Workshop might carry that sort of like, ooh, it's New York out here, but no, I mean, nice. We could try that, but I think what we would rather do is we're interested in the same thing. We did a talk like this with another editor who was very much about trying to help people understand how to present yourself, how to, fix your background. Like your background looks very nice, right? Ours look curated, maybe not perfect, but like that means something. And you don't I can hear you when you talk, just that, policing your social media. So if I'm interested in hiring you, I don't go in your Instagram and find out that you are you do some insane thing that I, just as unhireable. We'd like to help that. I think also because Jason and I went through, film programs when we were in school that just ended and they were like, see you later. And there was
I don't even know if they said goodbye. I think they just I stopped. I was like, oh,
they
that's
literally let the door hit you in the ass on the way out. So that's something that we thought more about, is that there could be more and should be more of a community to help people understand what it's like to, you have the skill, right? We can teach that, but can you teach someone to go up to someone on set and say, hey, I can help you, right? That's different, but probably to some degree a teachable skill.
Annie, one of the things that we didn't talk about, but I'm super curious about, in television and advertising and in film, we're always talking about accountability, but we have no stats. We have nothing to back it up. Online, you can see the numbers, you can see the demographics, you can see the gender, you can see everything. Give us some stats, give us some of your numbers of like what's the most highly watched video that you've ever done, monthly, like just give us any numbers you can.
So the video we posted 2 weeks ago is the highest video that's ever been watched, because you get rated 1 out of 10 for each video. So it's how it compares to the last 10 videos. And that one was a 1 out of 10 by like almost 1 million now for every of the 10 videos that's been posted. And our monthly views are at 36 million. So it's really crazy to think about that many people are seeing all of our work, and we can see that it's very half and half, girls and boys. So, but definitely it says it's an older generation because it's people watching on their parents' computers, but we know it's kids because of the comments and stuff, you can tell.
Do you guys actually look through and you're looking at comments actively and responding and engaging in that way?
Yeah. Yeah, I like to look just because they make me laugh. Some of them are funny, and Topper will answer some of them, and we just like to see what people are saying, if they liked the idea, if they liked the video. It's just interesting to get that kind of feedback, even if it's, I don't like this video. That's all it says.
That's wild. So the momentum, I mean, the thing that, you know, not to draw this out too much more, but like at some point, this is a self-sustaining, like as long as you're releasing videos on a regular schedule, you know, it's not like you're going to lose 15 million people. It's like, it just seems like a wave that grows and grows and grows the more you sort of feed it. Was there a point at which like you and Topper were like, all right, we're beyond, or was this before you even got there? It was sort of like, this thing is already sort of like, you know, reached escape velocity.
I feel like, well, when I first started working for him, it was mostly shorts based that he was doing. He was just trying to grow subscribers that way on YouTube. And he had another company that was in England working for him on the long form, and they just didn't really bring much to the table of like storyline, anything. And as soon as I started working on the long forms, like the videos really started picking up. And within the last month or two, they've just been like, we would never like assume that that would have happened this quick, that they're just getting more and more. And it's definitely like a very gradual line. And for everyone, it's different because some people overnight, it's automatically there and then it just will go down from there. Some people, it'll go up and then stay the same. So for us, it's definitely been just going up and up. And that's exactly what we want, because we just want more people to keep seeing how good and how much work we put into all of the stuff we do. And I feel like it's just kind of picking up every month. It's more. So it's definitely like really fast paced, changing all the time.
All right. Jason, why don't you wrap things up with what's going on now at MEWShop and what we have coming up this summer?
Well, this summer we have a bunch of events. Even if they're not happening when this is happening, they will be on YouTube available for everybody. But we have an event with the sound people behind the show Franklin. We have the editors of The Bear. We have a great color event with some great colorists. We have Josh, a thing you did with the editors of Palm Royale, and we have a bunch of other stuff coming up. We got a 6-week starting, and we definitely have a bunch of workshops filling up and going. So we have a good stable of stuff to check out.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you're seeing
a huge AC cranking too. It is hot out there. I don't know if LA, you guys probably not experiencing the same heat wave, but you know what it's like. And then so we've got our brand new 32,000 BTU AC cranking right now.
When I lived there, my AC didn't work, so it was very interesting.
All right. Well, Josh Apter, Jason Banky of Manhattan Edit Workshop, on behalf of...
Can I interrupt for one more second? Just Annie, if you want to tell us, tell the people out there where to find you and your work.
Yes.
Go, we're just selling our stuff this whole time. Go ahead.
The YouTube I work for is at Topper Guild on everything. And it's both the long form and short form. And my Instagram is Annie with 4 E's, then Nelson.
Okay. We're going to put that in we'll put that in the post,
Okay.
all the information. But once again, Annie Nelson, thank you so much for giving us honestly, the youthful new form social media YouTube experience that we don't usually get. We've worked with some really famous people who have worked on blockbuster, millions, hundreds of millions, maybe billion-dollar industry films, and you're really giving us a fresh perspective. So thank you very much for joining us today. And on behalf of Manhattan Edit Workshop, thank you very much. You can check us out at MEWShop.com. There it is in my background, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Thanks a lot, Annie.
All right. Thank you.